Well, what is up, guys? Today we're going to talk about window warriors in prison. Now, when I first started getting locked up, you didn't really have anything in your cell. If you get locked up now, you go in your cell, you got a little TV, a travel kettle, you get like a corded phone, but you can't phone anyone. You have to phone like registered numbers, what you've registered with the prison. But back when I first got locked up, you didn't get none of that. All you got was, you could have a stereo sent in the first time I got locked up, but people were like sending drugs in the stereos, so they stopped doing that. And then they brought in a new rule. You can buy stereos from Argos through the prison, but you've had to have been in for like 6 months before you can even apply. So there weren't that many stereos on the wing. So yeah, back then there was nothing to do. It was boring. So what people used to do, they used to be window warriors, and they'd come to the window and they'd just scream and shout out the window all night just for entertainment. And the way I can describe it is, it's kind of like battle rap, but it doesn't have to rhyme, you know. You just have to come up with like creative ways just to take the piss out of people. And back when I used to do it, I used to kind of treat it like a show, you know, like we do on YouTube. You know, I would have an audience of about 8 to 10 people, and there'd be countless more, you know, listening, but not like getting involved. And I used to like play to the audience type thing. And I always remember there was one of my favourite ones was with a guy called Rob. That's not his real name. I'm just gonna, you know, I don't want to embarrass him. But there was a guy called Rob, and he had a big massive head, and he had big massive teeth as well. And we was always bantering at the window, and what I used to do is I'd just hit him with some like generic insults, you know, like just to get the ball rolling. I'd say, "Hey Rob, I bet you can't even get your head out window, it's that big." And everyone would be laughing, and then we'd have a little bit of back and forth, and Rob would hit me with some lines, and then as soon as he hit me with like a semi-decent line, I'd slam my window as though I'd come in, you know, as though he'd done me. And then I'd start writing jokes, and everybody out of the windows would be shouting, "Oh, you've done him, Rob. You've got him. He's crumbled. He's got his head in." And then Rob would be hammering me, saying, "Oh, do you want some custard with that crumble?" And I'd leave it for like 10 minutes while I write a few jokes down. And then as it's all settling down, I would open the window and shout, "Now then, Rob." And it would fire back up again, and I'd hit him with I'd say, "Oh, it's going to be a sunny day tomorrow. Do you want to borrow me quilt cover for a bandana?" And I said, "Do you want to do some sparring? There's a wheelie bin down there. You can use it as a gum shield." And everybody would be laughing, and there'd be people on the beds. They'd be laughing, and you know, it was kind of like just playing to the audience. And I remember once with Rob, because we were good friends, you know, we were just always taking a piss out of each other. And one day we was coming in off the yard, and he got a bit overexcited, you know, and he ended up slapping me. And everybody saw it. Everyone was like, "Whoa, how are you going to let him get away with that?" So I chased him down, and he ran into his cell and locked the door. Because you can lock the door from the inside in prison. And I know it's immature, you know, but prison is an immature place. It's kind of like... it's like playground mentality, but with deadly consequences, you know, because sometimes banter can get out of hand. But yeah, Rob slapped me. He ran back to his cell and locked the door. And we ended up getting banged up. And I was thinking, how can I get him back? I've got to get him back for that. Everybody saw it. So I started thinking of creative ways what I can do. And one of his go-to disses to me was, he used to say, oh, because he knew my girlfriend who I was going out with. And he always used to say, "Oh yeah, I've shagged your lass while you were at work, or you know, while you were out." And that was his running joke, you know. So I thought, right, I'll use that against him. So, because he knew her, and I wrote a letter to him, pretending it was from her, and it was just things like, "I'm sick of Paddy. I've always liked you," and I wrote this letter, and I got like a rubber. You know, a pencil rubber, and I wrote the Royal Mail logo on this rubber, and I stamped it on the envelope so it looked legit. It looked like a proper legit letter. And I said to the screw, I said, "Oh, can you do us a favour, boss?" I says, "Can you give this to Rob and pretend it's with the regular mail so it looks like it's real?" And he says, "Well, what is it?" And I said, "Oh, it's just a prank, you know, and it's just a laugh. And he says, well, let me read it. And he's gone through it. He was sat there, he was laughing his head off while they were reading it. And he says, go on then, I'll give him it. So he's done the mail, and he's give Rob this letter. He says, here Rob, there's a letter for you there. And we was banged up, and I was on the servery. So when they let me out for the servery, I was looking over at his cell, and I'm thinking, I bet he's fucking buzzing, I bet he really falls for this. And I'm on the servery, serving the food out, and I looked over at his cell as the screws opening the door, and he opened the door and he come running out with this letter. He was beaming from ear to ear. I thought, I fucking got him. And I was on the servery, and I was like, put my game face on. And I heard him telling everyone, oh, so I'm not writing to Paddy's missus. And he come up in the line for his dinner, and he was waving it around. He's saying, so I'm not writing to your missus, laughing. And I played along. I'm like, oh, you fucking, what are you on about, you dickhead? You're out of order, you. And he was delighted. All day he was telling everyone, he was laughing, he was giving me stick. And I let it ride. You know, we got banged up that night. And the next morning, as soon as he came out, he said, oh, so I hadn't wrote a letter to your lass. And he was laughing and joking about it. And I thought, I'm going to get him about tea time. I'm going to put it on him. So we waited all day. I had to put up with his stick all day. And then probably about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we was just about ready to get banged up. And he says, oh, so I'm not going to write to Paddy's missus tonight. And he was waving his letter around. And I says, here, Rob. He says, what? I says, you know that letter what you got? He says, yeah. I says, it was from me, you little knobhead. And all the wing was fucking, dickhead. Everyone was laughing at him, and he just went bright red, fucking shot in his cell and slammed the door. I got him perfect. It was the best prank I've ever pulled. And anyway, about 2 hours later, I says to my mate, I said, where's Rob? He says he's fucking still in his cell. So I've got up, I've opened the flap and looked in, and he was sat at his table, and he was just like staring at the wall. He'd not moved for like 2 hours. And the screw was coming past. He like poked his head in and had a look. He said, fucking hell, Paddy, what you done to him? You're going to send him to the Nuts house. And that was just a prank, you know. I had to get him back for slapping me. And it's not bullying, because he was part of our crew, you know. He used to give me loads of stick. He thought it was writing to my missus. So I got him with that one. That was a wicked prank. But yeah, Window Warriors in prison. You get some really good creative people in prison. Some of the banter is on fire. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh God, you sounds like you had a right laugh in prison. And I did, you know. I think most people do. They'll spend like 80% of the time laughing their ass off. But you're still in prison, you know. You still can, like, it can be life or death in an instant. You know, I've seen things in prison that still give me nightmares to this day. I've got a fear of knives from seeing people get slashed. So you kind of, you know, I feel it's important that you have to give both sides. Prison, I'll always say, is crap, it's boring, it's depressing, it's violent. But you can have a laugh in there, you know, and I think it's important to give both sides of that. But anyway, that's just a little story of a practical joke and Window Warriors in prison. There was plenty of times where people would be arguing outside the window, starting off as banter, but then it'll get serious, and then the next morning someone ends up fighting over it. But ever since they introduced the TVs, you don't really get none of that anymore. You do get people talking out the window now and again, but for the most part it's just quiet because everybody's watching TV. But anyway, if you enjoyed the video, press the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Bonjour.